Hey guys, I'm Tunesy. If you couldn't tell by the channel freaking name, of course. Day freaking 25, guys. Day freaking 25. Can y'all believe that? Halfway through this freaking series. No way. Um, I want to thank all of you guys for, you know, tuning in, to all of them. Even if it's a little bit of people, I still appreciate every single one of you. Um, And yeah, after this series, all I know after this is that I'm gonna be taking maybe a short break, like a month break, 2 months, maybe a few weeks, I don't know. And then I'll come back to original content with like vinyls and like maybe other stuff. And yeah, I'm thinking of a cooking type videos. Maybe I'll do that, and like with like special guests, and like I just hit my mic again, but I'll have like special guests help me and stuff. But yeah. Um, well, the whole reason for the sigh in the beginning of this video is I'm afraid to say that this one might be my longest video ever. And no, I know I've been saying that for every video, but this one's actually probably going to be one of my longest ones. It's a well-known one, Gypsy-Rose. Um, so today's state is Missouri. And today's song of the day is "Cry Alone" by Lil Peep. The genre is emo rap, and yeah. Um, So I doubt many people will watch this one. Everyone knows the Gypsy-Rose case. Um, but yeah, this one's definitely going to be very long. Um, yeah, let's get started right away. All right, I want to get started right away only because I'm not trying to talk that much. The document I have up right now is currently 14 pages, so hopefully I could ski through this. Or else, I might be behind. Um, and I'm not trying to edit a lot since I'm busy tomorrow. No, I'm not busy tomorrow, but like I'm afraid, it'll mess up my schedule. Um, anyways, yeah, let's get started. Claudine Patry was born in Chack Bay, Louisiana on May 3rd, 1967, to Claude and Emma Patry. Nicknamed Dee Dee, she grew up with her family in nearby Golden Meadow. Relatives say that Dee Dee used to steal from her family. They later speculated it was a form of retaliation when things didn't get her way. Her mother died in 1997. In later interviews, her family expressed suspicion that Dee Dee was neglecting Emma and might have killed her by denying her food. At some point, early in her adult life, Dee Dee worked as a nurse's aide. When she was 23, she met Rod Blanchard, then 17, in a bowling alley bar. They got married on December 27th, 1990. Shortly before Gypsy Rose's birthday, in July 1991, the couple separated. Rod said he realized that he got married for the wrong reasons. They named their daughter Gypsy Rose because Dee Dee liked the name Gypsy, and Rod was a fan of Guns N' Roses. When he refused to return, Dee Dee took her newborn and moved to live with her family again. According to Rod Blanchard, by the time Gypsy was 3 months old, Dee Dee had become convinced that Gypsy had sleep apnea and had begun taking her to the hospital. However, repeated overnight stays with a sleep monitor and other tests found no signs of condition. Dee Dee had become convinced that her daughter had a wide range of health issues, which she attributed to an unspecific chromosomal disorder. Sorry if I said that wrong, by the way. At some point, Dee Dee claimed that Gypsy had muscular dystrophy and made her use a walker. In her book, Gypsy claimed that she was 5 years old. Her grandfather made her and Dee Dee take a bath with him. She writes that when she was 7 or 8, she was riding on her grandfather's motorcycle and they were involved in a minor accident where she suffered an abrasion on her knee. Dee Dee told Gypsy that doctors had given her a wheelchair she would need to use. Gypsy often went with her parents to Special Olympic events. In 2001, Dee Dee claimed Gypsy was 8 when she was actually 10. Gypsy was named the honorary queen of the crew of Mid-City, a child-oriented parade held during Mardi Gras in New Orleans. At the event, Gypsy described herself as an animal lover with 4 cats and said her grandfather was her best friend. Dee Dee suffered a leg injury that Gypsy remembered resulted from a car accident and required her to be in a hospital for 2 months. At that time, Dee Dee and Gypsy were living with Claude and stayed there for 10 months. In her 2024 book, Gypsy accused Claude of having abused both her and her mother when they lived with them. During that year, Dee Dee began to take her daughter to science fiction and fantasy conventions. They would sometimes go in costumes, which allowed Gypsy to blend in. Gypsy seemingly stopped going to school after second grade, possibly even as early as kindergarten. Her mother homeschooled her after that, supposedly because her illness was so severe. Commenters have suggested that instead, the removal of Gypsy from school enabled her mother to isolate the girl while concentrating her and her fantasy. Gypsy claims to have learned to read on her own by reading the Harry Potter books. Gypsy's grandfather had remarried and Dee Dee moved in with her father, Clyde, and stepmother Laura. Family members later said that when preparing food for her stepmother, Dee Dee poisoned it with Roundup weed killer, leading to Laura's chronic illness during this period. During that time, Dee Dee was arrested for several minor offenses, including writing bad checks. The Petries said that when they begun to confront Dee Dee about her treatment of Gypsy and expressed suspicion about her role in Laura's ill health, Dee Dee left with Gypsy. The family said that Laura appeared to recover. They settled in Citadel, New Orleans. They lived in public housing, and Blanchard survived on child support payments from her ex-husband, Rod, and public assistance based on her daughter's purported medical conditions. Blanchard continued to take her daughter to various specialists, mostly at Tulane Medical Center and the Children's Hospital of New Orleans. She sometimes gained treatment for purported problems after she told doctors that Gypsy had seizures every few months. They prescribed anti-seizure medication. Gypsy had to undergo surgery during this time, and Dee Dee regularly took her to the emergency room for minor alignments. According to the Springfield News Leader, Blanchard regularly consulted with Dr. Robert Beckerman. He is said to have treated Gypsy for 10 years. After Hurricane Katrina devastated the area in August 2005, the pair left the ruined apartment for a shelter in Covington set up for people with special needs. They lived in the shelter for 3 months. Dee Dee told officials that Gypsy's medical records and birth certificate had been lost in the flood. A doctor in Covington, who was from the Ozarks, suggested the pair relocate to her native Missouri. The next month, they were airlifted there as part of the resettlement of people left homeless by Katrina. At first, Dee Dee and Gypsy lived in a rented home in Aurora, Missouri.
It is the perfect town, the perfect place.
I think it was a blessing in disguise. It took something like a hurricane to make us have a happy ending.
Dee Dee was happy enough just having medical care for Gypsy. She says she never expected this.
It's amazing. It's amazing, the outpouring of love and support.
Dr. Janet Jordan met Dee Dee and Gypsy while on a mission trip to the hurricane-ravaged areas. She says she knew right away she'd see them again.
They're like lost souls who were meant to have been born and raised in Aurora.
After arranging a helicopter ride from Louisiana to St. John's Hospital, the process began to find them a permanent home. It turns out St. John's already owned this house, and with the help of local donations, it was turned into a home.
I think that's just kind of what we're all about. You know, we're all about doing what we can to help people that are in a bad situation.
It's beautiful, and it's happy, and it's full of love.
Gypsy and Dee Dee say they're blessed. Dr. Jordan says they deserve to be.
It was pretty devastating down there, it really was. And they never ever lost hope. I think they brought hope to everybody else that was down there.
This is home to us. We have been wandering for so long, and this is finally our home. So it's so good to be here.
During their time there, Gypsy was honored by the Ole Foundation, which advocates for the rights of feeding tube recipients, as its 2007 Child of the Year. In 2008, they moved east to Springfield. Habitat for Humanity had built a small house for them there. Rod and his second wife hoped to get to Springfield and visit, but for a variety of reasons, Dee Dee changed plans. She told her neighbors in Springfield that Gypsy's father was an abusive drug addict and alcoholic who had never come to terms with his daughter's health issues and never sent them any money. Dee Dee regularly shaved Gypsy's head to mimic the hairless appearance of chemotherapy patients, allegedly telling her daughter that since her medication would eventually cause her hair to fall out, it was best to shave it in advance. Gypsy often wore wigs or hats to cover her baldness. When they left the house, Dee Dee often took an oxygen tank and feeding tube with them. Gypsy-Rose was fed the children's liquid nutrient supplement, Pediasure, well into her 20s. Dee Dee used physical abuse to control Gypsy, always holding her hand in the presence of others. When she said something that suggested that she was not generally sick or seemed beyond her purported mental capacity, she recalls that her mother would squeeze her hand very tightly. When the two were alone, Dee Dee struck her with her open hands or a coat hanger. Medical interventions continued. Dee Dee had some of Gypsy's salivary glands treated with Botox, then extracted altogether to control her purported drooling. Gypsy-Rose later claimed her mother induced drooling by using a tropical anesthetic to numb her gums before doctor's visits. The lack of saliva glands, coupled with side effects of the anti-seizure medication she was given, caused her already few teeth to decay to the point that the majority of her front teeth were extracted and replaced with a bridge. Tubes were implanted in her ears to control her myrid purported ears infection. Gypsy later said in her memoir, The Prison Confessions of Gypsy-Rose, that she suffered from a pain pill addiction from the age of 16. In September 2007, Bernardo Flasterstein became suspicious of her muscular dystrophy diagnosis. He ordered MRIs and blood tests, which found no abnormalities. I don't see any reason why she doesn't walk, he told Dee Dee on a follow-up visit after seeing Gypsy stand and support her own weight. Flasterstein noted that Dee Dee was not a good historian. After contacting Gypsy's doctors in New Orleans, he learned that her original muscle biopsy had come back negative, undermining Dee Dee's reported diagnosis of muscular dystrophy, as well as her claim that all her records had been destroyed by flooding. He suspected the possibility of Faucher's disorder imposed on another. Dee Dee contrived to gain access to Flasterstein's notes and subsequently stopped taking Gypsy to see him. Flasterstein did not follow up by reporting Dee Dee to social services. He said other doctors had told him to treat the pair with golden gloves and doubted the authorities would ever believe him anyway. In late October 2009, an anonymous caller told the police about Dee Dee's use of different names and birth dates for herself and her daughter, and suggested Gypsy was in better health than claimed. Officers who performed the resulting wellness check accepted Dee Dee's explanation that she used the misinformation to make it harder for her abusive ex-husband to find them, without talking to Rod, and reported that Gypsy seemed genuinely mentally disabled. The file was closed. Dee Dee seems to have forged a copy of Gypsy's birth certificate, changing her birth date to 1995 to bolster claims that she was still a teenager. Gypsy said in a later interview that 14 years, she was not sure of her real age. Dee Dee sometimes also claimed that the original had been destroyed during the post-Katrina flooding. Dee Dee did keep another copy with Gypsy's real birth date. Gypsy recalls seeing it during one of their hospital visits and becoming confused. Dee Dee told her it was a misprint. In February 2011, Gypsy made an escaped attempt that ended when her mother found her with a man named Dan, whom she had been speaking to online and met at the convention. There are two versions of this story. In one version, people at the convention who knew Gypsy and Dee Dee became concerned after finding Gypsy in a man's hotel room. They believed that the girl was 15 and the man was 35. The neighbors claimed that Dee Dee produced paperwork giving a false birth date and threatened to inform the police, and that the man let Gypsy go. The other version of the story says that Gypsy had found out she was really 19 and had made a plan with Dan to run away to Arkansas. She says that she left a note for Dee Dee saying she wanted to be an independent woman and hitchhike a lift at 2 a.m. to Dan's friend's house. When she got there, she found that Dan was on parole and was not permitted to leave the state. Gypsy says that Dee Dee found her because she had left her phone behind, and Dee Dee had managed to track her down. Gypsy says that she went willingly because Dee Dee had told her she could continue her relationship with Dan. Gypsy says afterwards, Dee Dee smashed her computer and phone with the hammer and threatened to do the same with her fingers if she ever tried to escape again. Gypsy claims she was leashed and handcuffed to her bed, and Dee Dee starved her for 2 weeks. Dee Dee later told that she had filed paperwork with the police claiming that she was mentally inconvenient, leading her to believe that if she attempted to go to the police for help, they would not believe her. In June 2011, not long after being freed from bed, Gypsy had unsuccessfully attempted to escape from the house by shooting her mother 10 times with a BB gun, which she initially believed was a real gun. Dee Dee claimed the injuries inflicted were from a robbery attempt at a nearby Walmart. Around the same time, she would typically hide out from her mother to use her computer. Gypsy-Rose said she had shared explicit images of her body online around this time to make her feel good about herself. In February 2012, police were called shortly after Dee Dee and Gypsy had been caught shoplifting arts and craft items worth $21.53 from a Hobby Lobby. The items were hidden in the wheelchair under her legs. Dee Dee told the police that they had returned from Disneyland and planned on making a scrapbook. Dee Dee said that they had no intention to steal, that it was a mistake, and they had simply forgotten to put the items back. Sometime around 2012, Gypsy, who continued to use the internet after her mother had gone to bed to avoid her tightened supervision, made contact online with Nicholas Godejohn from Big Bend, Wisconsin, whom she said she had met on a Christian singles website. Godejohn was arrested on April 18, 2013, for masturbating to pornography at a McDonald's for 9 hours. He was previously charged on March 11, 2013, for carrying a concealed weapon and disorderly conduct, which carries a combined maximum sentence of 1 year in prison, $11,000 in fines, or both. He has history of mental illness, sometimes reported as dissociative identity disorder, and also has autism spectrum disorder. In 2014, Gypsy, who had 5 separate Facebook accounts, confided to Ali Woodmansey that she and Godejohn flirted online and that their exchanges had BDSM elements, which Gypsy claims was more of his interest. Ali considered herself a big sister, but later found out they were a similar age. Godejohn and Gypsy had discussed eloping and had even chosen names for potential children. Ali tried to talk her out of it, thinking she was too young and possibly being taken advantage of by a sexual predator. She considered Gypsy's plans just fantasies and dreams, and believed that nothing like this would ever really take place. Despite Dee Dee's efforts to prevent her from using the internet, which went as far as destroying her daughter's phone and laptop, as well as allegedly locking her in a backyard shed, Gypsy maintained contact with Ali, who saved printouts of her posts until 2014. The next year, she arranged and paid for Godejohn to meet her mother in Springfield. Her plan was for him to just casually bump into her while she and Dee Dee were at a movie theater, both of them in costume, and apparently strike up a relationship that way. Later, introduced him to her mother. As soon as they did meet in person for the first time in March 2015, when Gypsy and her mother went to see Cinderella, Godejohn says Gypsy led him to the bathroom handicap stall where the two had sex. Gypsy disputed this account, saying the two did not have sex, and that Godejohn had pulled out his penis but was unable to get an erect. The two continued their internet interactions and began developing a plan to kill Dee Dee. After receiving stolen money sent by Gypsy in the mail to purchase a bus ticket, Godejohn returned to Springfield in June 2015, arriving while Gypsy and her mother were at the ER to have her feeding tube replaced. After they had returned home and Dee Dee had gone to sleep, he went to the Blanchard house. Gypsy let him in and allegedly gave him duct tape, gloves, and a knife with the understanding that he would use it to murder Dee Dee. Gypsy hid in the bathroom and covered her ears so that she would not have to hear her mother screaming. Godejohn then stabbed Dee Dee 17 times in the back while she was asleep.
I heard her scream once, and there was more screaming, but not like the kind in a horror film, just like a startled scream. And she asked, who was it that was in the bedroom? And she called out to my name about 3 or 4 times. And at that point, I wanted to go help her so bad, but I was so afraid to get up. It's like my body wouldn't move, and then everything just went quiet.
Afterward, Godejohn claimed that the two had sexual intercourse in Gypsy's room. Gypsy alleged that Godejohn had raped her and that the sexual activity was non-consensual. She alleged that Godejohn told her he would rape her because she did not allow him to rape Dee Dee before the murder, as he had previously fantasized about it. Gypsy said that she had called out for help from her deceased mother during the rape. They took over $4,400 in cash that Dee Dee had been keeping in the house, mostly from Rod's child support checks. They fled to a motel outside Springfield, where they stayed a few days while planning their next move.
Hi, honey. I'm filming this. He's eating a brownie. But later he will be eating me.
During that time, they were seen on security cameras at several stores. Gypsy said at that point she believed the two had gotten away with their crime. They mailed the murder weapon back to Godejohn's home in Wisconsin to avoid being caught with it, then took a bus there. After concerning Facebook statuses were posted from Dee Dee's account and phone calls went unanswered, several friends and neighbors went to the house. While they knew that the two often left on medical trips unannounced, they saw Dee Dee's modified car still in the driveway, making this unlikely. The protective film on the windows made it hard to see inside in the low light. No one answered the door, so the gathered friends called 911. When the police arrived, they had to wait for a search warrant to be issued before they could enter, but they allowed one of the neighbors present to climb through a window, where he saw that the inside of the house was largely undisturbed and that Gypsy's wheelchair were all still present. When the warrant was issued, police entered the house and found Dee Dee's body. A GoFundMe account was set up to pay for her funeral expenses and possibly Gypsy's. Blanchard's acquaintances feared that even if Gypsy had not been harmed, she would be helpless without her wheelchair, medications, and support equipment like the oxygen tank and feeding tube. Woodmansee told police that she knew about Gypsy and her secret boyfriend. She showed them the printout she had saved, which included his name. Based on the information, police traced the IP address from which the posts to Dee Dee's account had been made to Wisconsin, and the next day, police agencies in Waukesha County raided Godejohn's home in Big Bend. Godejohn and Gypsy surrendered and were taken into custody on charges of murder and felony armed criminal action. The news that Gypsy was safe was greeted with relief in Springfield, where she and Godejohn were soon extradited and held on $1 million bond. But in announcing the news, Greene County Sheriff Jim Arnott warned, things are not always what they appear. The media in Springfield soon reported that Gypsy had never been sick and had always been able to walk, but her mother had made her pretend otherwise, using physical abuse to control her. Arnott urged people not to donate money to the family until investigators learned the extent of the fraud. An unsealed search warrant showed Gypsy had at least 5 Facebook accounts. Nick told investigators Gypsy had so many different Facebook accounts he could not remember all of them. The accounts: Nicholas Godejohn, Nicholas Bella Rose, Snow Gypsy Blanchard, Gypsy's Trip, Praying for Dee Dee and Gypsy, Bella Rose, and Gypsy-Rose, were asked to be searched along with any additional Facebook accounts associated with Gypsy's email addresses. Previous warrants say friends told investigators Gypsy had alternate Facebook accounts under the name Emma Rose and Ivana Rolfe, where she reportedly liked pictures of sadomasochism. After the disclosure of how Dee Dee had been treated, Gypsy sympathy for her as the victim of a violent murder rapidly shifted to her daughter as a long-term victim of child abuse. While the charge of first-degree murder can carry the death penalty under Missouri law or life without parole, Dan Patterson announced he would not seek the death penalty for either Gypsy or Godejohn, calling the case extraordinary and unusual. After her attorney obtained her medical records from Louisiana, he secured a plea bargain to second-degree murder for Gypsy. She was so undernourished up to this point that during the year she was in the county jail, her lawyer told BuzzFeed that she had gained 14 pounds in contrast to most of his clients who typically lose weight in that situation. In July 2016, she accepted the plea bargain and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Godejohn still faced the more severe charge because prosecutors contended that he initiated the murder plot, and he and Gypsy agreed that he was the one who killed Dee Dee. He was also more severely prosecuted due to the different personal circumstances. Godejohn was given less sympathy and understanding due to a lack of involvement in the abuse. Gypsy's plea bargain agreement did not require her to testify against him. In January 2017, his trial was postponed when prosecutors requested a second psychiatric exam. His lawyers contend that he was an intelligence quotient of 82 and is on the autism spectrum, suggesting that he has diminished capacity. He initially waived his right to a trial by jury, but changed his mind in June of that year. In December 2017, the judge set Godejohn's trial for November 2018. In their opening statement, prosecutors alleged that Godejohn had deliberated for over a year before the crime, while his lawyers pointed to his autism and said that Gypsy had formulated the crime and their love-struck client had just done as she had asked. The next day, prosecutors showed jurors the next message, sometimes sexually explicit, that Gypsy and Godejohn shared in the week before the murder, often using various personas as well as the knife he had used to commit the murder. In some of the texts, he had asked for details about Dee Dee's room and sleeping habits. These were supplemented by video of his interview with police after his arrest, where he admitted killing her. Gypsy testified on the trial's third day. She said that while she had indeed suggested to Godejohn that he killed Dee Dee to end her mother's abuse, she had also considered getting pregnant by him in the hope that once she was carrying Godejohn's child, Dee Dee would have to accept him. Along with the knife that she gave to Godejohn, she stole baby clothes from Walmart during a shopping trip so she could go ahead with either plan. However, she said Godejohn never told her what he thought about the pregnancy plan. After 4 days, the case was sent to the jury. Jurors had the option of finding Godejohn guilty of one of 3 murder charges or not guilty. After approximately 2 hours of deliberation, they returned with their verdict: guilty of first-degree murder and armed criminal action. In February 2019, he was sentenced to life in prison for the murder conviction, the only possible option since prosecutors had declined to seek the death penalty. Godejohn asked Judge David Jones for leniency on the armed criminal action charge, saying that he had fallen blindly in love with Gypsy. He received a sentence of 25 years on that charge, which is concurrent with the life sentence. Jones also denied a motion by Godejohn's lawyer, Dwayne Perry, for a new trial. Perry argued that the jury should not have been allowed to hear that Godejohn had considered raping Dee Dee on the night of the murder, and also argued that the state's psychologist should not have been allowed to testify, while Godejohn's psychologist should have, to establish that he had diminished capacity. In denying the motion, Jones conceded that an appeals court could find the latter point significant and consider it a reversible error. At Godejohn's appeal hearing, there was video that showed Gypsy emotionally manipulating Godejohn and an instructional video of how to stab Dee Dee. It was asked why these were not used in the trial. In late 2023, public defender Tyler Coyley filed an appeal seeking a new trial for Godejohn. A time frame has not been set up for when the courts have to review the request. Gypsy served her sentence in Missouri Chillicothe Correctional Center and did not talk to the media until she had made her plea. When she did, she told Michelle Dean that she had been able to research Mouchani syndrome by proxy on prison computers, and her mother had every symptom. I think she would have been the perfect mom for someone that actually was sick, she said. She had believed Dee Dee's claim that she had cancer, even though she knew she could walk and eat solid food, leading her to assent to the regular head shavings. But she always hoped the doctors would see through the ruse, and she was frustrated that none besides Flasterstein did. When Dean asked her what made her want to escape her situation, she recalled the 2011 incident at the science fiction convention, which made her wonder why she was not allowed to have friends like others her age. While she said that Godejohn took their idle discussions of murder into reality, she accepts that she committed a crime and has to live with the consequences. Nothing less, she has said that she hopes to help another abused victims. On June 27th, 2022, she married Ryan Scott Anderson. On September 29th, 2023, the Missouri Department of Corrections confirmed that Gypsy had been granted parole and she was released on December 28th, 2023, after serving 85% of her sentence, per state law. In March 2024, Anderson and Gypsy split 3 months after her prison release. Oh my freaking god. My voice hurts. This video is my longest video. 34 to 35 freaking minutes. 32 without this clip, but I'm guessing this clip's gonna be around 2 minutes or maybe a minute. I don't want to talk that much anymore, so maybe like 33. But geez, everyone heard of this story. This story is absolutely crazy. Um, in my opinion, everyone has different opinions, aka also people have different opinions on, let's say, the Mendez brothers. People think that they didn't deserve jail time, which murder is wrong. But I also feel like Dee Dee, um, shouldn't have done that. I know she had a disorder where she made her like that, but I just had a feeling that murdering isn't the right way. Like, not at all, actually. So yeah, she did deserve the sentence. I mean, you got to at least take some accountability for it. But at the same time, she was abused by her mother, and she was you know, all of that. But yeah, that's the end of today's video. This one's the longest one. Missouri. Oh my god, I didn't know this case took place in Missouri. Um, we learn something new every day, I guess. But yeah, thank you guys so much for freaking watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Um, this one will probably be my longest one. I doubt there will be any longer ones like this. And if there is, kill me. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one tomorrow. Bye.